Hi, welcome to another edition of From the Ground Up. I'm Karol Weyman from Outdoor Coffee Shop, and I'm excited to be here today. This podcast is brought to you from K9 Fasteners, and we're lucky to have someone who has worked with K9 Fasteners, Mark Petri from Petri Building and Design. Why don't you introduce yourself, Mark? Thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me on the show. I'm Mark Petri, as you said, Petri Building and Design. Been in the trades and in the building industry pretty much all my adult life, as well as into my high school years. I started working for a neighbor who was a remodeling contractor. I have lived in Colorado for the last 23 years, doing a variety of projects, and pretty much since 2004, end of 2004, 2005, have been on the design side of things more than on the construction side. We work with a ton of contractors in the foothills west of Denver.
That's great. And I'm thanks again for being on the show. So let's just get started, from an architectural perspective, which is what you bring to the table. Why do fasteners play such a critical role in long-term safety and performance in outdoor structures like pergolas, fencing, decks, etc.?
There are a lot of applications that we use a structural lag in, which the Husky fastener from K9 fits the bill for. Outdoor living is paramount in the foothills in Colorado. Everybody has a deck. Everybody has a covered porch or outdoor patio space, and a lot of timber accents, some log accents, different things come into play. All those connections need to be well done. And most of the time, owners and contractors want fasteners that are going to perform in a fashion that they aren't very visible. They're a blind connection, so to speak. And a construction lag like Husky is the answer for those connections.
Yes, and K9 Fasteners offers a lot of different. They have a few other dog-related fasteners as well, which we can get into in a little bit. What are some of the most common failures that you see in exterior construction that can be traced back to improper fastener selection or installation?
Probably the most common would be using what's on site and not preparing ahead of time. So a lot of times we'll see a deck that is connected with drywall screws or with framing nails that are not rated for exterior construction. Or sometimes the contractor will not have long enough fasteners on site for certain connections, and using some of the competing fasteners too, they've run into issues with corrosion. So we really try and specify connections that will last and that will be simple to install on site. One of the biggest things that contractors run into is, I can't have something complicated when the wind is blowing, the snow is blowing, or, other elements are in play while they're constructing such outdoor, structures.
Yeah, that's interesting. You had talked about corrosion. So outdoor builders face a lot of elements like moisture, temperature swings, and treated lumber chemicals. What should contractors understand about corrosion resistance and compatibility?
Probably the biggest thing is for a structural connection, we not only need the shear strength and the strength of a steel connector, a steel fastener, but we also need good corrosion resistance, which a lot of times comes into play with the coatings that are on them. One of the key benefits of K9 fasteners is not only do they have a zinc coating base coat, but they also have a triple ceramic coating, which is really helpful in staving off any sort of rot or decay or corrosion over the long term.
Yeah, typically how long would that last then? So once you have, that can last a lifetime because you protected it ahead of time with the zinc.
Right. Yeah. The zinc acts as kind of a sacrificial barrier. And a lot of fasteners that are out there in the market have some sort of zinc coating, and
Mhm.
that's basically their sacrificial layer on their fastener. What K9 has done is stepped up the game, and they've added triple ceramic coating on top of that. So even for corrosion to get to the zinc layer, there has to be a bit more damage done, so to speak, to the fastener before that happens. So they just last a lot longer. They perform better. The ceramic coating not only does a great job with corrosion resistance and protecting that zinc layer and the steel itself, but it also does a great job with installation, because just like a frying pan with a Teflon coating, it's non-stick kind of properties. The same thing happens with those fasteners, so they go in well into tough materials.
Can you expand a little bit with your personal experience with K9 Fasteners on where you've seen them perform especially well in these conditions?
Yeah, I would say I've kind of focused on the Husky fastener, the construction leg, but also they have deck fasteners and trim fasteners. We've had contractors use all three of them, and with that triple ceramic coating for exterior assemblies, deck railings, trim around windows and doors, posts to beam connections, decking to joist connections, all those different connections. There's an application of K9 fasteners. Just yesterday, I was out on a job site and they were assembling a multi-ply beam in a floor system. This was an interior application, but it applies as well to exterior multi-ply beams, which a lot of contractors do in deck assemblies. The Husky fasteners snug up the joist plies or the beam plies and hold them together well. That is a connection that you do not want a failure on.
How can high performance structural fasteners expand what contractors are able to design and build, particularly for larger spans or elevated outdoor features?
I think the spans generally come down to the material selection, but the connections at the structural points, the bearing points, as we might call them on a plan set, where that load from a beam is carried down through a post system and into the pier below or into a foundation system. All those connections that make up that framework are very important. And oftentimes we will spec out a hanger or a metal connector, but there are a lot of times as well that a blind connection is more desirable. People don't want to see a big chunk of metal hanging off a post and beam connection. So that's where we come up with more of I would call it a platform framing kind of connection, where a beam sits in a notch on a post and then is connected through. And oftentimes we can do 3 or 4 construction legs with proper embedment into the supporting member and get a very solid connection that way. So having a variety of fasteners that meet those specifications and are long enough to make those connections with larger timber beams or glue lam and 6x6 or 8x8 posts are fairly common. So using a K9 Husky fastener up to a 12-inch length is very helpful on a job site.
So how often do you see the high performance structural fasteners? How often do you see that in building? Like, what is the most common K9 fastener that you use or recommend using or see?
I would say, most commonly we see the Husky fasteners just because of that structural aspect.
Sure.
we again, in multiply beams, in post to beam connections, in different applications with a beam over a wall, truss connections, they're using them on that in some applications where a truss sits on a wall system. And there's a variety of uses for the construction lags. Not only those, but those seem to be probably the most commonly used.
Sure.
The deck fasteners, the Dobermans, those come into play quite a bit too, with just some quick assembly of studs in a wall, or getting a joist hung before you put your joist hanger on and nail that off. Sometimes they'll use a Doberman to make a starting connection, and then doing decking and trim work and everything else between the Dobermans and the Greyhounds. They'll get a lot of applications on that as well. But I would say Huskies are by far used the most in a lot of the structural applications that we have.
Right. For crews trying to balance speed and craftsmanship, what fastener features actually make a noticeable difference in installation efficiency on the job site?
I would say, number one, especially in the foothills, it's not easy getting supplies and materials. So having, a bucket of fasteners on site and having the availability is big. So a lot of contractors will stock up ahead of time, and having that variety of fasteners readily available is number one. Number two is reliability. And I talking to a contractor yesterday on that one project, he said that they've had some competing fasteners snap off heads. They're dealing with corrosion, and it wastes their time. So having a reliable fastener, and the whole K9 mantra is faster, stronger, safer. It rings true on the job site when guys can do a project and they know they aren't going to get a callback because of snapped off heads, or because of some corrosion showing through, or bleeding out of the wood connection. Plus, then the speed at which they can install them, due to that triple ceramic coating and the design of the fastener itself, they install faster, and safer in the aspect of, in many applications, you can take a construction lag and be hanging off a ladder or a scaffold to try and get a lag to bite in a piece of timber and then drive it through into a post. And if you don't have the balance and the fortitude to use three hands, which most people don't have, you're really struggling. With a K9 fastener, a lot of the contractors get pretty excited when they see that there's potential to take a construction lag, seat it on the bit on your drill, and drive that in with one hand. That's a huge time saver when you're not chasing fasteners that have fallen off the ladder or down in the pit, so to speak. That too is helpful on a job site. Having the availability, having the performance, and then having the longevity of the fastener just makes people sleep better at night.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting, you can be on a job site and be able to use all three of the different K9 fasteners that they offer, depending on the complexity of the project too. So I know that Barry, who we work with for K9 Fasteners, is constantly talking about just the reliability of the fasteners and the ease in which, people will come back and complain that there's been a fastener issue. Most of the time it's just like so smooth, and that must be really encouraging for you to be able to know that you can see your architectural design and what you're working on, and have the contractors be able to easily not have to worry about the little things, which become big things with the fasteners if they're not, working correctly. Do you have any exposure to telling us about where K9 Fasteners was just such the obvious choice over another fastener in where you could see it, or someone made a mistake and used a different fastener and then realized that K9 was the real solution.
I would say that out here, probably the more typical response has been that, hey, I love to try out new things. I want to try something that performs better, and let me give it a shot. And then they usually come back to me, or I've heard of contractors coming back to Barry and say, "Man, these are way better than what we were using before. Can I use it in this application, or what information do you have for that application?" So it's been a great response. One of the other things that I would say is really critical is that K9 Fasteners is flexible enough that when they do get feedback on different things, and say a contractor wants to try another application or something, they've been responsive. Barry has said, "All right, give me your feedback. And, you'd like a fastener of this caliber, or with, for instance, a longer thread length on the fastener shaft, or little things." And he'll take into account that feedback and then respond. And my understanding from talking to Barry this last month, while we were out exploring some of the Front Range, and then he was making some sales calls and meeting up with suppliers and distributors around the Colorado area, was that they've got some new fasteners coming out this summer, and some tweaks on some things, and some other aspects that they're introducing that are just going to expand their capabilities. And K9 being that flexible and having that feedback and doing something about it is unique in the industry. We don't find that very often with other suppliers or bigger companies that are inflexible, and they put their heels in the ground, and they're done. This is what they got. I like that K9 is interested in the people that they work with. Barry has always taken the approach of, "Hey, I want to get to know you. I want to get to know how your business works. I want to get to know what things I can do to help you." And it shows in the way they've chosen to build their fasteners and to distribute to the markets that they're working in.
I think because of Barry's expertise, it's really a passion of his, and it's a passion of yours too, to make sure things are safe and reliable. And nobody wants the headache of something not working, but for him to be able to take the feedback and really understand what the feedback is and make recommendations and go that extra mile. There's so many. There's not a lot of companies out there like that, but to do the research and almost have like a new release on the fasteners, new and improved fasteners. And I look forward to hearing Barry tell us about what's coming up new for K9 Fasteners and the tweaks that are being made. But the diligence that he has, and when you're talking to him, the diligence that he has with making sure the contractor is happy, and it goes all the way, up the line, to make sure people are satisfied with the product that K9 Fasteners is offering. So I think that speaks a lot to the company and to the people that are in the company, that they want to make sure that it's the best product possible. So for contractors who want to improve the durability and reliability of their outdoor projects, where can they learn more about purchasing K9 Fasteners? I think I can answer that too, but go ahead.
Yeah, I would say by far the best place is the website, k9fasteners.com, is going to be your first stop. And by all means, if you have not experienced or used K9 Fasteners yet, go on the website, pick pick a fastener and order a box, order a keg, or, do something to try them out. Secondly, if they are not available in your area, go ask your lumber yard or supplier. Don't go to the big box store. They don't want to supply through a big box store. That's not their wheelhouse. They want to work with the smaller, local lumber yard, the places where contractors really want to buy materials from and want to work with, or local distributors. And if you don't have them in your area, ask your local lumberyard to get them, and then definitely try them out and give Barry feedback. Give K9 Fasteners some feedback on what you like about them, and what things you might also like in addition to what they have, and then start telling your friends about them. Start telling your contractor network about them. And I think you'll be surprised, because way back in the day, there were some other construction fasteners that were considered the Cadillac in the industry, and they have not performed as well. Once I found out about K9 Fasteners and tried them out, I was so impressed that there was a fastener that was truly faster, stronger, safer, and at a better price point and a better value. That comes into play, especially in this day and age when numbers are so tight and the cost of construction is so high. If you can add value for a project and not only have the reliability and the performance of a fastener, but also have a value in the purchase cost and the overall cost of the project, that just is another win for K9 Fasteners.
I mean, they've really stood the test of time, it sounds like, too. People are continually wanting to use them. So another way to get a hold of them is to go to outdoorcoffeeshop.com. There is a directory for K9 Fasteners, and I know that there's some promotions always happening for them. They really want to get the word out, and they really want to be there for the contractor. So I think those are some, good ways to reach out and see where you can get a hold of K9 Fasteners. And is there anything else you want to add before we end our podcast?
I did do a little bit of a video recently with Barry on just how I've used him over the years as the litmus test for whenever I want to buy a product or a tool. And that still rings true. Barry would not represent K9 Fasteners if they were not worth representing. And I would say that is a huge testimony for the fasteners themselves and the company. But, over the years, I have used Barry as the litmus test. Barry, what compressor are you buying? Barry, what table saw do you want to buy? What drill are you buying? And he always searches out the best and the best performing, best value, and really does his research and understands what he's purchasing. So for me, that was a time saver when we were contractors. I could just ask Barry, hey, what do you got?
Right. He's reliable too. So not only are the K9 Fasteners reliable, he's reliable, and he cares. He cares so much about what he does. And so I think that if you can find someone within your company that cares that much and is able to put himself on the line and goes around the country, like this man goes around the country. I've never talked to him where he hasn't been in the car. Like, he's always moving, always meeting with contractors, always getting in front of them to be able to show what K9 Fasteners can do. So it's great to see that in someone that cares so much about what he's doing in the company and has integrity as well. So, Mark, I want to thank you for joining us today. This is really fun to learn a little more about K9 Fasteners and to learn about your business. I wish you the best of luck in Colorado and in your design work that you're doing. And you should check out his website. How can they find your website?
They can go to petribuildinganddesign.com, all spelled out. Petri is Petri. And yeah, check it out. We do a variety of projects, everything from, take out a wall and put in a beam to support a floor system or roof system above, and all the way up to, multi-million-dollar homes and commercial projects. It just depends on what people need, and we love to help people out, especially here in the foothills of Colorado. But I've actually done a project down in Mexico and one in the Dominican Republic, and stuff out in California, and stuff out on the East Coast of Maryland. So we've been all over the place.
Wow, that's great to hear. Thank you. Well, Barry is lucky to have you, but I think people are lucky to have Barry too. So I want to thank you. This wraps up another episode From the Ground Up. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.